I am not broken. Let me say that another way. I don't need fixing. Let me say that another way. I don't need a fix. Does that one resonate a little more? I don't need a fix. I just had the most underwhelming shopping experience I have ever had in my life. Dropped my kid off at my parents', went to an appointment. Appointment went super fast. I was like, I have an hour I could kill by myself. I'm gonna go meander through stores, retail therapy, here we go. Now I'm cheap, so my idea of retail therapy is not like going to the mall. Okay, so we started at Bulk Barn, which was right next to the doctor's office. Get into Bulk Barn, went through all the Easter stuff, Easter candy, Easter paraphernalia. Looked at all of it, was like, that's not my food. My kids don't need that. No. In Bulk Barn, I walked every single aisle and everything was like, no. There used to be that aisle, you know, the health aisle with like the spelt flour and like the lentil pasta and all these little things and like the weird supplements. Went down that aisle too and was like, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. This whole store, even the healthy stuff, is just not my food. The whole thing. It's completely irrelevant to me now. This happened at a couple more stores. I went in, looked around, didn't need things, and left. Went to the grocery store of all things. I was like, fine, I'll go stop at the grocery store before I pick up my son. I got like, you know what? The biggest thing was I got bananas that were overripe. That, you know, they clear them out once they start getting a little bit ripe. So I was like, woohoo, cheap bananas. I spent like $1 at the grocery store. That's it. That was my shopping spree, my underwhelming experience. But here's what I noticed while I was in the grocery store. The first one that hit me really hard was this little old lady, 70s or 80s, hunched over, just peering at the various baked goods, trying to find the right one that was gonna give her a fix. And you know, I hadn't even noticed the baked goods. I think she was looking at like Nanaimo bars or something. But I hadn't even noticed the baked goods. But when I looked at her, my brain said something really peculiar. It said, that's not my life. As I got near the cash register, this woman cut me off and she was going to like the chilled drinks impulse section there. What's got like the health drinks, the caffeine drinks, the just the chilled soda, all that, right? And she's looking for her fix. And I was like, wow, she didn't even notice I existed. And you could see it in her eyes. Like you could see it, like, what do I need? What am I gonna get? And not only did I think, well, that's not my drink, I thought, well, that's not my life. I don't even need that. I get to the checkout and I barely notice it, but I'm only noticing it because of this pattern I'm seeing. I didn't even look for like, what are the magazines in the impulse section? What are the candy bars? What are the chocolate? Which things are on sale? Can I vicariously buy something for one of my kids? None of that even registered in my brain. I get out of the grocery store right away. I see someone is vaping. I see someone else walking into the tobacconist shop. I see the lineup at the Tim Hortons. I see the lineup at the McDonald's drive-thru. I see other people glued to their phones. Everywhere I'm looking, someone is getting a fix. It's like 3 to 4 p.m. People are off work, willpower depletion. It's not mealtime. Everyone is getting some kind of dopamine hit. And I didn't need one. And let me be clear, I have no judgment towards any of these people. That's just life. Like, this is the way life is, you know? And like, all the love, all the power to these people. They're doing their best with what they have and the knowledge they have. And that was me too. But it was incredible to see the contrast and recognize the healing. My dad used to work at the virology lab here in Canada. It's like where all the scientists are trying to find cures for cancer and AIDS and all that. And he worked in biosafety. So my dad worked on like the HEPA filters and keeping things contained. The department's called biocontainment. He used to say this thing. He said, you know, Krista, you can't measure prevention. That's why the flu shot doesn't really take off. You can't really measure what didn't happen, but sometimes you can. It's so interesting when you have been an addict, when you have an addict brain. I have had patterns of residual addictions and the need for a dopamine hit. And what I realized was this whole shopping experience was a force of habit thing of like, I think I need a dopamine hit. I didn't even need a dopamine hit. I'm just as happy now as I was at the beginning. Didn't find anything, didn't need to even hunt for anything. What I was hunting for and I found was that I'm healing. That's what I found. Now, I've been doing this food addiction recovery thing for over 3 years now with Bright Line Eating. But in that time, other addictions came up. I've talked about this before. Social media shopping addiction, exercise addiction, sure. Anything and everything. I'm pretty sure I could get addicted to almost anything. Even throughout most of my addiction recovery journey, I lived by this mindset of thinking, I need a dopamine hit. I just need to get it from the right thing. And now what I've realized is I don't need a dopamine hit, period. It's not that I need to get my dopamine hit from something healthier. It's that I don't actually need a dopamine hit because I'm awake and alive for life. My hormones are balanced. All those brain chemicals are figuring themselves out. And I'm able to just be present in my life, whether it's a high or a low, happy or sad, good or bad moment, stressful or calm, and just be in that moment. I'm going to tell you what it took for me to get here, and you're probably not going to like it if you've been following me for any length of time. On March 3rd, after a time of prayer and meditation, I felt called and urgently pushed that it was time to surrender my Bright Line Eating membership. Now, Bright Line Eating is the program that got me food sober, and I have been a part of it for over 3 years. And I have expected that I'm going to pay my monthly dues till the day I die. I have no intention of leaving Bright Line Eating, but it was such a strong call that I had to surrender to it. I had to. And I'll be honest, that was not easy. And I went through all the stages of grief in a week. I went through denial. I went through anger. I went through depression. I went through bargaining, and I went through acceptance, all in a week. But what this did for me is something very profound. I have this strong identity as a food addict, and that remains. I still identify as a food addict, but being fully immersed in a concentrated way in the chaotic lives of a bunch of other addicts was actually keeping me to a certain extent stressed and focused on the dopamine seeking. And I do think this is unique to me and not everyone else. I have ADHD, my ability to hyper focus kicks in here a little bit. Having community in an addiction recovery is really, really important. And I still have community, and I think it's really important for people getting sober to get into a community. If it's a food addiction, get your butt in Bright Line Eating. Absolutely. I will vouch for the membership till the day I die. Really, it's amazing. But it wasn't serving me anymore. And either something deep down inside of me or something way outside of me, I vouch for it being my higher power, knew that and told me, Krista, it's time to cut the apron strings. Now, let me be clear. My involvement with Bright Line Eating is a lot greater than I think the average person's involvement with an addiction recovery program and support community. So I am not saying that at some point in everyone's addiction recovery, they should stop going to AA meetings. That's not what I'm saying. I have a very public face. I am very well known. I have a lot of the FOMO where I try and get involved in everything. And Bright Line Eating is both an addiction recovery program and a business trying to keep people subscribing. So there's always something new and exciting to do. And it's really easy to get caught up in the FOMO and try and do everything and kind of lose yourself in the process. I lost Krista's identity to the Bright Line Eating identity. It was to the detriment of myself, my family, and my purpose in this life that I was becoming too immersed in the Bright Line Eating identity, if it's at all possible. And trust me, it is. So for the average bear and for the average bright lifer who is struggling to even have enough support and engage enough, obviously this does not apply to you. And I want you to know that. I think that being in Bright Line Eating is exactly the right place for most people, and that strong current of community is really helpful for 95% of the population trying to get sober, to have that pull and that electric and magnetic community that draws you in so that you can get sober, you can feel seen and heard and held and contained and supported. Absolutely 100%. But for me, it became an undertow that was actually pulling me under, and Krista was suffocating. So we're several weeks into Lent already, and Lent being a season of kind of fasting and reflection and stuff like that. And I started a social media fast several weeks ago. And so I was already thinking quite clearly when I made this decision and had this kind of meditative moment of like, I need to surrender my Bright Line Eating membership and my Bright Line Eating identity. I really took that with confidence. And it's now been, by the time I'm posting this video, about 2 weeks. The healing that has occurred in this time is mind-blowing. I've gone from having no patience and stamina for my children's little stories and quips and interests and isms in their life, to asking them about it. Like, how's this going? How's your friend? What are you thinking for next year for middle school? What instrument do you want to play? Like, all of a sudden, the energy that used to be outpoured into the peripheral community of Bright Line Eating is now getting poured into my children. All of a sudden, the patience and understanding I was expending on people while listening to coaching calls and accountability calls that they didn't even know they were getting that attention and energy from me. Now that patience and attention and energy is going towards my spouse and my family. All of a sudden, that forward thinking energy that I was applying to, like, I wonder what my program's going to be like 5-10 years, is going into like, I wonder what my garden's going to look like this summer. I wonder what closet I should organize next. And it's going into my home and my family. I think it's pretty easy to tell if an action was the right action for your life by the fruits produced by that action. And it's really easy to see that I'm recording this video about a week and a half since surrendering my membership, and it's already so obvious that cutting that string has put me on a trajectory towards life and growth and health. But this moment today, with this shopping experience, realizing that I don't need a hit, I don't need a fix, because I'm not broken, because I am healed. This has been a huge paradigm shift, and one that I don't know if I would have gotten if I was still staying in the membership right now. Not because the message isn't being told there, but because that's not how I would have heard it, because of who I am, because of how I immersed myself, because of how I was honestly becoming codependent on my Bright Lifer's identity. I think it is possible to do too much inner work. I think that's kind of what I'm saying. It's possible to get so in your head and so deep in the inner work that you forget about your life. You forget about who you are. And I think that's what was happening for me, and cutting that string made all the difference. For those of you watching this who are in Bright Line Eating, what I also want to assure people is I am still doing Bright Line Eating. I am still someone who eats in a Bright Line Eating fashion. I still have a mastermind group. I still have a guide. I still write my food down every night and commit it to a buddy. I am still holding the food commitments of several other people. I still make 3 phone calls every week, one-on-one, in person with people. I still rock a strong program. I still have a morning habit stack. I still have an evening habit stack. I have a strong program. That has not changed. I have not given up my food addiction recovery. I have just given up my identity of being a Bright Lifer. And unless the good Lord sends that light beam down on you and says, surrender your Bright Line Eating membership, I am not advertising that I think this is the right decision for anyone else. I think this was very specific to my situation and the healing that I needed. But I do think there's a general principle that can be applied here, because I think it is easy when we transition away from weight loss. So I'm talking, you've landed the plane in maintenance, you're no longer getting a hit from the scale going down, you've had to move on in life. I think it's really easy to find the next best thing to pour all that energy into. And you can still lose yourself in being overly consumed with something. Maybe it is like, for me, it was helping other people find food addiction recovery. That's what it was. I was pouring that energy into that. Maybe it's a faith community or a charity. Like, maybe it's something good. Maybe it is a sick loved one that you're pouring all that energy into and you're losing yourself in. Maybe it's being in the parent advisory committee at your kid's school and you're like forgetting about your family in exchange for all the fundraisers at school. Like, these are all mom examples. I'm sorry, but that's my circle. Just apply the concept to yourself. The point is, it's really easy because we have lost our identity in diet and exercise and body image for decades, that when we get that sorted out, we just try and find the next thing to lose our identity in. And what I'm learning and healing and realizing is I can find my identity in myself. I can find my identity in my higher power. And that's where I think my lifelong program is probably going to transition to more of a 12-step model, because I genuinely do think I am still powerless over my addiction. And I genuinely think that I need a higher power. And that is step one. Essentially, cutting myself off from bright line eating has put me right at the foot of step one of any 12-step recovery. There is a bright line eating unofficial group. There's a 12-step bright line eating recovery program. If anyone wants the information, find me, contact me. I will send you the information. It's fantastic. Right now, I'm not joining another group. And the reason I'm not joining another group is that this period of silence and stillness for me is really sacred, because I'm figuring out who I am and what I'm doing with this thing called life. It's a gift, and I have a lot of it left. It's a big gift. I'm only in my mid-30s. There's so much of my life left that it's not worth wasting it on just dumping it somewhere else for the sake of being busy. No, I will sit in this liminal space as long as I absolutely need to. So for now, I'm a bit too tender to get involved in another community, even the 12-step community, because I don't want to end up just immersing myself there and losing myself again. So what does the future hold? I'm not sure, because I only need to worry about today. I'm still doing this one day at a time. I'm going to leave you with my current mantra, and it's a spiritual one, and it's a Christian one. So I'm sorry if that's not your worldview, but you can change the wording however you want. But this is how I say it. Jesus, I don't know what today holds, but I know that you hold today. Thank you. Amen. That's it. Jesus, I don't know what the day holds, but I know that you hold the day. So you could change it to, I don't know what the day holds, but I know my higher power holds the day. I don't know what the day holds, but my highest self can hold the day. Whatever it is that your sphere of influence is, you can absolutely adapt that to whatever. But that's how it's working for me right now. It's one day at a time. It's fully surrendered to my higher power. And it's realizing that that urge that hit me, that hurt. That was like, that cutting off of that community, that hurt. There was anxiety in that, but there was also peace and freedom. And now there's actually joy coming in a way that I did not expect. I did not expect this. So there you go. There's the big bombshell that I've been trying to figure out how to lay down and tell people. But I guess this is how it was going to come out, was through a random, underwhelming shopping trip. So I hope you have a beautiful day. If you're doing bright line eating, I hope you have a bright day, and just lots of love to you.